Good morning. So let's talk a little bit about Dragonslayer Session 5, Barrowmaze. This was outstanding. This is player recap and reflections. So first, let's talk a little bit about what actually happened, right? Before I get into any other stuff. For those that are following along, I'll do the best I can. Let me find it here. We went through in this session about 2 hours of play. Let's see here. We were back at the main entrance at start. They had apparently in the session before, I was not able to attend. They had headed back into the Barrowmaze from town. And they had headed up the North Passage back to and returned to the area we were at when we left in session 3. So session 4, they cleared out a string of rooms along the top. So again, those of you who have, again, I'm assuming my map is fairly close. I don't know. This is the joy of mapping, where we're doing the best we can based on the descriptions we get from our MC, which is great fun. But session 4, I believe, for the most part, they dealt with all of this area here, is what I got from session 4. They went through all these rooms and investigated this area again, returned. Again, I have read the journal entry for Jose, but I was not able to attend that session, so I won't recap that session, obviously, as a player. This session for us involved all southern regions of the Barrowmaze, main Barrowmaze. So that includes backtracking through a handful of rooms, and it include the east exit out of the mongrel area. There was this area of kind of mongrel creatures that we waylaid in session 2, I believe. We encountered 2 pitfall traps. I was fortunately a victim of both of those and survived. So we basically went through a couple of long corridors. We encountered a large kind of triangular room. We backtracked. So we encountered, let's see here, in this 2-hour session, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 locations, 6 of which were rooms. 4, the other 2 were more hallway encounters, and I think they were more random encounters. Again, also with 2 pit traps in which myself and Jorge's character suffered. However, we survived. No one died in this adventure, and we did face one, I believe, wandering monster fire beetles, 4 of them. We dispatched 3 in one turn. The 4th then failed its morale check and disappeared off into the darkness. We did not make chase. That is the details I can tell you of what we did in that 2 hours. This was almost all the southern portion of that first floor, or maybe second floor. The entrance is the first floor. We drop into the second, and that's what we've been doing for 5 sessions. Is this, and I've got a total here of maybe 20 locations that we have done. For those who are again trying to track this along with their experiences at Barrowmaze, or track this in just understanding the complexity of Barrowmaze. And it is indeed a maze. And we have found some areas that have circled back around upon themselves, etc., etc. This is where we've felt the gargoyle statue here in what I labeled room 13. We discovered the constellation chamber and the statue to the goddess Demetra as well in a room. So that's kind of where we're at in that Barrowmaze. And it was another amazing session. I'm enjoying it immensely. What I'm really enjoying is I would call this casual. We're role playing, but we are enjoying this as friends. We're enjoying this as casual adults. It is very it's got gravitas, but we are just playing naturally, right? We're communicating naturally, we're role playing naturally, and we're utilizing the rules. What I'm most happy about is we are adhering to the rules, and we're adhering to the spirit and the style that I think that this is was intended not only for modern OSR, Dragonslayer, and Barrowmaze, but just for what old school D20 gaming is. And so that's the thing I'm having the most fun about. It's the thing I'm most proud of. It's the thing that I'm enjoying the most. And I like this. We got to have meta talk. When you're doing old dungeon crawls, there's going to be talk about maps. Going to be talk about orienting ourselves, location, exactly this, exactly that. None of that bothers me in the slightest for being in character. I was a little off my game the last few weeks. I've been battling serious allergies, which has impacted my chronic asthma, which has impacted my sleep. And so last week I couldn't make it because I'd been up all night long. I was just exhausted, and I thought I'm not going to play completely exhausted, my mind half in it. So I'm doing better, but I've been out of it for a week. So I haven't done anything for a week as far as role playing. And so I was a little bit just happy to be back. And I was a little bit out of my sorts last night as far as being mostly in character, but there were some great moments of interplay where we slipped into character and we talked to each other, etc. And it's for me, it is what role playing is, I think, for 90% of people on the planet. We don't LARP. There's not a sense of LARPing or delusional, so in character that we are not able to function as a social event, right? I mean, I've said before, role playing is not a game, but role play gaming is a game. And you can role play with game elements, which requires meta talk. It requires communication. It requires dice checks. It requires rule lookups. It's just the way it really is. And I'm sure there are diehards out there that'll tell you, oh, well, we play in character, we light candles, we turn on music, we turn down the lights, we get wet. Well, I'm happy for you. I really am. But that ain't how most people do this thing. So, good for you, right? This was great. So we started off, remember, we were in town. So again, I wasn't in a session. So we narrated, they had gone back to the main exit room to rest and recover. And my character shows up late to the party, so to speak, tagging along with a hireling, Vela. Just a hireling. Anyway, so that kind of replaced one of the hirelings they had lost in the last. They had two hirelings killed in the session 4, and we survived this session without any death. However, both Felonius and Fex, my character, and Jorge's paladin suffered more than once suffered damage in pitfalls. So we get together and we set out and we quickly discuss which way do we want to go. And I suggested south and for the most part, Donald of Clearwater, the ranger, agreed. Let's go south. It's time to go south. Again, there's some trepidation about heading east, although I think that means, the real dangers of the Barrowmaze world is east in general. On the overland world gets harder and harder and harder. But the reality is, we're making assumptions that east in the maze is probably more dangerous as well. So we're trying to navigate slowly around to the east. So we're ultimately had a lot of choices. We had a couple of brick walls to start that we could choose to deal with. We have still a north passage, I think, in one of the areas that we have yet to go. But we headed south, back through the room, back to the mongrel room where we ran into all these bizarre monsters that were kind of mixed creatures, where we had lost Grimwolf, I believe, died in that melee. And then we headed east out of there and around a corner and kabam, pit trap. Both Felonius and I survive it, climb out of the pit trap. They circumvent the pit trap by a ledge around it. And we can see rubble just down the hall and on the western wall. And then erupting from this, not erupting, but coming out of this are fire beetles and the glowing red abdomens, etc. Fex, now wounded from his fall, is less inclined to engage anything at this point. We discuss it while they're mingling. They're not hostile. And Donald suggests we make a shield wall and we missile fire them and we try to get upper hand and we deal with this instead of retreating already. And we all agreed to do such. And we shield wall with spears and we fire missile weapons over our heads. And they are able to kill 2 or 3 on the first turn. And then we again run off the final one. And we're able to then get up and investigate this crumbled wall. We discover some silver pieces there hidden in the cache in the wall or buried in the wall. We collect all that up, and then we continue on. And we come into the large kind of triangle chamber where there's a gargoyle statue missing its left arm. It has been cleaved off with a hammer or something. It's hollow. We investigate thoroughly. We find nothing else of interest here. This gargoyle. There are 2 doors in this room. We listen at both. One, we can clearly hear something living on the other side. And we decide, and that's east. So Donald and everybody, we decide, let's back away from this and let's head back up and see if we can't circle around maybe and come back around to this room from another angle. Which is ironic, which I don't disagree with, but the irony of that is, well, we don't know if we're going to come in the back door. This could be the back door, right? So this idea that we're going to go around, circumvent, and come in and surprise it. Well, we don't know that this might be the back door, right? So, but the logic is, we know something's there. Let's investigate more before we engage this thing. So that makes sense. We did bind wounds after our fall in the pit. We fought the beetles. Then we bound our wounds. So Felonius and I both healed from that. We rested in the gargoyle room as well. We went back up to the mongrel room, and I believe through the north passage. And we again circumvented, tried to find that kind of a back way down and around to that original gargoyle room. That's our goal. And we end up encountering a constellation room. Well, actually, we come to an alcove. There's a box in the corner in an alcove as we come out of a room. We investigate that, or I should say, oh God, let me backtrack. See, I'm forgetting. Our thief was a savant last night. He spotted a secret door in the long diagonal hallway down to the gargoyle chamber. We backtracked and went through that. And once he got into there, it was just another hallway, but he was able to spot a secret door at the end of the hall. So he has a passive check, and he was on fire last night. Again, Eloy rolls all this in secret for us. So he just tells us, you spot this secret, you spot this thing. And so we're moving through secret doors to get through this, and it's working great. And we spy the box. He makes a check on the box to see if it's trapped. He can't quite tell, but we went ahead and pop the top. And there were 4 skulls in this box, all painted with a reverse pyramid black. Somebody had painted a reverse pyramid black paint on their skulls. Dora, our assassin, takes one of these and puts it in her backpack. I don't know why. An assassin collecting skulls, man, it's not too out of the ordinary, is it? I don't know. But for some reason thought to take one. We end up in another chamber where we see an alcove, again with maybe 8 or so burial chambers, and we approach it, and the thief now with his 10-foot pole out is finally prodding the area in front of us after we have fallen at least once, and he triggers a trap. A portcullis fall snaps his 10-foot pole in 2 and separates us from the treasure. And the reason we're investigating this is we see a glimmer of coins or sparkles or whatever. It takes 3 or 4 of us to lift this portcullis, while Najian slides in and collects all of the coins he can, slides out. It turns out they are platinum pieces. And so we come away with a pretty fat haul there in this little trapped portcullis. And his 10-foot pole has been rendered into pieces, so it's really not of much use at this point. We travel on, and we encounter in the next, again, another picture, long hall, and we traverse down this long hall, and again, we, not thinking about prodding ahead with a pole or a spear or anything, we fall again. Felonius and my character topple into a pit trap, and again, thank God we haven't died from this. It would be a very sad way to go. Especially after our first one, we should have been aware. We should be looking for pitfalls. Sorry, I need my coffee. So anyway, we survive that, again, beat up a little bit, climb out, we bind wounds and rest. We have full break, eat. drink, bind wounds. And we do that in the next room where it's at this door, my character can hear wind, and my character, having been a Cyclops that worked in the caverns in Sewell, and has experience underground according to the rules, the lore of the Cyclops race, and had been ultimately workers, laborers, slaves. I can assess from the sound that it's a natural wind blowing through a crevice or a hole in the rock or stone. And we go ahead and we get that door open, and that's where we rest as Nagion is. As we come in, we realize the glimmer of light. It blows our torches out, but I can see a little bit in the dark. We get the torches lit, and we can now see in the very low ceiling. I would imagine my character has to stoop in this room. It is constellations, and every one of these constellations is a precious stone. So while we rest and eat and bind wounds, Nagion goes to carving out some of these precious stones out of the ceiling, and he gets about 10 of these things. They're not super valuable, but there's so many in the ceiling that you can imagine if we took a couple of hours to pry out as many of these stones as we could, we'd come away with a haul. Well, he did this just in the meantime. So again, we bind our wounds. We're back on our feet. We've had a meal. We've had some water. We've rested, and we traverse down again. I believe through another secret door. We discover this chamber with very undisturbed. It had not been disturbed in a long, long time. 3 corpses, all of them greatly corroded. A female elf, a dwarf, and a man, I believe. Their weapons corroded and old, useless. We did find chainmail on one that is usable. We gave that to Vela. So Vela now's got some chainmail and a spear or something. And there is this marble statue again in the far corner, and it is of a female warrior garbed. And our ranger is able to tell us that this is the goddess uh, Demetra, which is the goddess of agriculture and harvest. And so he actually leaves an offering there, and which is cool, hardtack offering, and praises her for what she does for us, and invokes when he says her name, I believe, when he turns to us and he says, "This is the goddess of Demetra of," and he turns to tell us this. It evokes something, and we're hearing now echoes of the past. We're hearing them talk. These 3 characters talk about getting out before it's too late and running, and we hear these kind of echoes. I'm assuming invoked from the goddess statue, describing, but we hear their voices almost like a flashback, a audio flashback, and the voices warn of the demon bats, and then we investigate the bodies a little closer after we hear this, and they are indeed scratched. There's evidence that they were swarmed by something and cut up pretty badly. My character then notes they probably came through the crevice in the other room, right through that narrow 2-foot crevice where the wind is exposed. The door in this room had to be crowbarred open because it was off center, because the room clearly had shifted like an earthquake or something, or a sinkhole. And again, Fex is able to kind of express this to Nagion as he's investigating this crevice and is a little curious. So my character steps up and kind of describes, this must be a fault. This is where the ground is shifted or something, right? I've seen this before. So you have these great moments. Where the ranger harvested the organs. He knew that the fire beetle's organs were of value, and he harvested them, and they create light, a small light source, but a light source that can last for days. So he harvested those. My character watched and responded, again, I've never seen anything like this. You are a man of the world. So we have these great moments where, as the ranger does something, Fex, makes note of it. And again, Fex is literal. They don't understand metaphorical concepts or language. So Fex is a literal character. I take most what I hear from my peers as literal, as I don't understand, again, the metaphors, and I tend to be a literal character in that I won't, talk in metaphor. Or so we have these great moments. And again, same thing, Fex. We find a little bit about Fex's past. Again, not something I've written. This isn't background I've created. This is from the description of the Cyclops in the book, kind of who they are and where they come from. And so I bring that up. I want to introduce that in play. It just creates an atmosphere that there is world building here. It creates an atmosphere that there is more than just, five clowns sitting around a table rolling dice, right? It creates a little more depth. And we do so naturally. And we do so also in expression of character through dialogue with Dell or the Ranger, etc. Um, what else? I'm trying to remember what else we did. We then we decided, okay, we could not find a way to connect the dots back to the gargoyle room. Again, we were kind of hoping to find a way around, maybe come up on the backside of whatever creatures we heard behind that door. Mostly, though, we just weren't ready to open that door and deal with any creatures. So we decided we would go around and see what we find. We go back up to the doors around the mongrel room, and we investigate those. Again, and luckily enough, we had not had any wandering monsters, and we had at that point um, discovered treasures. We're able to accumulate quite a bit in gold, in platinum. I think we found not electrum, but platinum pieces, silver pieces, and then we collected some of the stones. We had maybe close to 200 gold in value. So again, another very productive day in the Barrowmaze. And we, knock on wood, hadn't lost anybody yet. As we're in those investigating those northern rooms, we come across a chamber of about 200 alcoves of burials, right? So imagine these are very much like the Roman, what are they called? The underground crypts the Romans would bury all their dead in. It's very much like that. You come in, there's a chamber, there's like where their bodies had been stored, and we divide to conquer. We can all do so many of these things in so much time. So we begin to go through all of these burial chambers as a party, looking for any valuables and loot. While doing so, we hear behind us a crashing of clay jars and something moving about and coming. And that's where we close the curtain on session 5. We did not want it to engage at the end of the session in a combat. So we will open in media res in session 6. We'll be dealing with whatever it is behind us in the corridors we've come through or the room we've come through. Something breaking and crashing of the jars. Another great session. Again, I was a little out of sorts. I was happy I was just more or less happy to be there and enjoying it. I wasn't as focused on the character early. It took me a minute to kind of get into character, and that's okay. There's again, we're playing this. I would say formal but casual. Formal in that we're adhering to the spirit and the concepts and the intent of this style of game, and we're adhering to the rules. We're adhering to the general game design and concepts of dungeon crawling with OSR, Dragonslayer, and Barrowmaze. But so we're formal in that way, but we're informal in our decisions to be role play. I haven't watched Ivan's video yet. I saw it though. I saw his thumbnail about the collar, so I can't wait to hear that. I think he talks for Ivan a long time. I think it's a 17-minute video about the collar, which is cool. So I can't wait to watch that today during lunch. So I will watch his video on the collar. And again, I used the collar at times as a kid. It always seemed to degrade into whoever was the collar kind of taking charge. I believe the collar is a fantastic tool, especially for large groups. I think it works online, depending on how you use it, because there can be a lot of noise online for a GM to make sense of. But also, I think it works because there's just a natural sense of who in the party is going to communicate effectively with the GM what we're attempting to do, which I think works great. But we're doing it, kind of whoever's in charge of that moment is the caller, right? So it's kind of a natural thing. If you think about just whoever's doing the picking of the lock, he's going to be the caller, right? So it's not a hard and fast rule that somebody's going to say, okay, Najion's picking the lock now. No, Najion becomes in a way the caller because he's now it's centered on his action for that 10 minutes. Then the GM can say, what are the rest of you doing? And very often Donald might well describe that for us. Oh, well, we're watching our backside, or and I might go, yeah, I'm lighting a torch. So it's all very traditional. We're not doing anything that we all don't do naturally. But again, I want to hear Ivan's video on the, because I'm not certain in session 4 if they used more of a caller. They may have, so that's interesting. And Mapper, I mean, we're all mapping, right? Which has been great fun, and it's interesting how close we all are. So which shows that Eloy's doing a very competent job. We're not all got different bizarre maps. We're not all out of whack. It's remarkable how close our maps are. It really is. And it just shows again that Eloy's doing a great job effectively communicating what it is we're doing, what we're seeing. Um, I mean, I love it. I love it. And it is so much better than, and let's put it this way. I also want to make this clear. For somebody who talks so much about what inspired me and how I grew up gaming and what I used to do, etc. I want to make it clear, I have been gaming more now as an adult than I ever did as a kid. So the irony is I can reflect back on just this 14 years, 15 years that I returned to gaming hardcore, running hundreds, thousands of sessions locally and online, and playing all kinds of different games with all kinds of different people, running games, being a player in different stuff, running different games. I have 10 times more experience over this last 15 years than I ever had from 10 to 26. Far more experience over 15 years as an adult, and thoughtful experience which I reflected on, experience which I had a critical thinking about, experiences where I weighed how that worked and did I like it and does it work, and game design intent and why does it work this way and how come it's not like D&D. And you come away going, oh, right, not every game is meant to create the same feeling as D&D, or it's not meant to create the same experience as D&D. And so when you constantly measure everything you ever read to one book, everything, you compare every single movie you ever see to one movie, you compare every pizza you've ever eaten to one pizza, it's going to skew badly your experiences. So you have to recognize not all pizza is the same, but they can all be good, right? Not all. And so one of the great things that's about this getting so much experience, more experience than I ever had before I left gaming. And again, the last game I ever ran, I was 26, and I ran it for my brother and his wife and my wife. And it was a top secret game set in World War II. And that was the last game I ever ran. And that was when I was 26. And then I went for almost 18 years, 26 to 38. What is that? 12 years. I didn't play again until I was 38 years old. And I ran local Labyrinth Lord sessions for a group here. That's how I got back into gaming. And from that point to now, 10 times the experiences and the hours and the sessions that I ever had as a kid, and at least that I can recall, right? I mean, we played a lot, and we'd play every morning or every day. In the summer, certainly you'd get together once, twice, 3, 4 times a week, and you'd go outside and ride your bike till it was dark. You could play D&D for an hour and go to bed, or you get up early in the morning before school. So we did play a lot. They were experiences that we didn't weigh. We liked it. We did it. We wanted to play. Well, there was no intent on, what is it we're trying to achieve. We were kids enjoying this social thing, this game. So now to be in this position, 54, a straight player, with people of like mind, like spirit, I would say pop culture, literacy, uh, education level, sophistication. There's nothing quite like it. I mean, we are, I think, enjoying. I've said this before, a second childhood, but it's not so much a second childhood. We are enjoying this um, as we always did, and we always knew we did, but we're now enjoying it on another level, and uh, it is and it's not a level of elitism. It's not a level that we're doing it better. No, no, no. It's a level of, I guess, appreciation, of gratitude, right? Grace in gaming, so to speak. And so I'm loving it. And I'm also more appreciative of it because I know now intellectually what it is, because I've scrutinized it. And I didn't just experience it and say, I like that. I don't know why, but I like that, right? I've scrutinized it and I've compared it, and I've recognized its value and its weight and its quality to other role-playing experiences of their value, their weight, their quality. And two things can be true. Ubiquity can be amazing and remarkable and worth every moment, but so can D20 old school. Two things can be true, right? It is not either or from where I come from. I know there are many people who are brand people. I know there are many people who are dedicated to being such dedication to being fanboys that they will eschew or they will shun or they will wrinkle their nose or baha, anything else. And that's fine. Yeah, whatever keeps them focused, I suppose. But there can be multiple truths, right? We can enjoy 2D20 Conan, we can enjoy D20 D&D, and we can enjoy Star Trek, Star Wars, India. It is not an either or thing for me, right? Um, However, I have preferences and I have only so much time and energy and money. And so therefore I am more focused now than I've been over the last 14 years. Many of you know, if you followed me, there wasn't an, I was buying games. I was reviewing games and I was positive about all of them. And I was very often attempting to run every one of them, which is overwhelming, right? So the minute I would get a game, I couldn't wait to run it. So I'd get Steve and Robert on the phone and we'd run a two-man session or something because I just had to try this game, had to try this game. And all of that now is amazing. It has informed my knowledge now to recognize exactly what it is I do love and what I love um, that was inspired by nostalgia or from my youth, but then to find out that that's all true. It's not nostalgia. It is the epic quality of what was original D20 D&D. There are reasons things last, or reason things are classics. They stand the test of time. And there are going to be people who come along who just absolutely hate the Chevy, right? I don't care how old the Chevy truck is, they hate Chevy. You're not going to change that. But there's a reason there's a Chevy truck that's a classic, right? Or a Ford truck that's whatever it is, right? So I don't care what it is you choose. There are going to be people who hate a thing or a movie, right? But the reality is they're a classic because they're universal and people still embrace them and they still provide a certain touchstone to experience that never goes away. And I find myself, like I said, at 54, having all of the sum total of my experiences over the last 14 or 15 years has only heightened the value of this experience. You would think it would ultimately degrade it and deter and turn you ultimately away from it. But ironically, it has only made those foundations that much more relevant to me. But I was never dissatisfied, right? So those who were dissatisfied that discovered, a vampire, or those that were discouraged and discovered RuneQuest, right? And said, oh, thank God, because I hated that D20 experience. For whatever reason, they hated it. Then they have the same feelings about those games, RuneQuest, Vampire, whatever, right? They found the thing that rescued them from the thing. Well, for us, I never needed rescue. I was happy with it. And it didn't stop me from enjoying Top Secret and Twilight 2000 and Boot Hill and Star Frontiers. And right, we did everything. And because we loved the old D20 fantasy, swords and shields and magic D&D, dungeon crawl, it didn't stop us from loving Top Secret, James Bond, and other games, right? We were young enough and ignorant enough that we just accepted things for what they were. And guess what? We enjoyed all of them. And uh, I'm less critical, and I was always less critical I was more critical when I returned it to see what my beloved old D&D had turned into, fourth edition and Pathfinder. Then I became incredibly critical. But I had not been a critical person about role playing prior to that, right? So those were new shock. It was kind of shock and awe when I came back. Again, having literally been out of all tabletop gaming, even sports gaming. I had designed my own tabletop sports game because I didn't have one and I wanted to make one I could play by myself, a solitary game. So I had designed my own in 96. I was desperate for something to do by myself so I was literally out of all tabletop gaming until about 30, I don't know how old, 36, 38, whatever, when I returned. So, and I've enjoyed sports gaming, tabletop sports games, board games, and role playing on a level that I never thought I would ever come back to. I was a computer guy, and then I was a console player, and I've engaged almost all of my free gaming time was consoles. And I was becoming, over the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years, very discouraged with video games. Um, Burned out, maybe, I thought, but I think what it turned out to be is it's not what fuels me, which is my imagination. They don't fuel my imagination like tabletop games. And coming back to those in the last 4 years, seriously, 5 years, and I don't mean role playing, I mean other tabletop games. I'm realizing, holy cow, that inspires a particular creativity and imagination that video games just don't do for me. Video games are perfect for active play. They're perfect for engaging something actively right now and doing something, but they don't inspire my imagination like tabletop games, right? Like pencils, paper, dice, conversation. Um, like reading. Reading is active and inspires my imagination. Watching TV is passive. It's easy to do, and it's entertainment. Video games are active physically, but they are passive entertainment. Tabletop gaming for me is an active endeavor. It's hard to do it when you're tired. It's hard to do it when you're stressed. It's hard to do it when you're fatigued. It's hard to do it when your mind is on taxes, right, or something. So reading, how many times did I read that paragraph? I've been trying to read something last week, and after half an hour sitting there, I'd read the passage 5 times, and I realized I can't focus on reading, and I don't know what it was last week, but that's due to a lot of things, right? And so it's easy to turn on the TV, it's easy to peruse YouTube, or it's easy to play a video game, but again, I've enjoyed it more now than ever. And tonight we play Joth, which is old school essentials. And this Joth was the first piece of this discovery. Playing with Joth in Joth over the last couple of years, and really engaging what we're doing, and this amazing world that Todd's created in this using old school essentials, which is Boldve remastered. And this group of people, it's reset my joy, period. And it has opened a door of positivity for me that I really wasn't having um, prior to, right? I'd burned out, I'd retired, I'd left for a while. I have other things to deal with, and then of course Dell and I creating our own work. That was work. There was a seriousness to that. I was enjoying it. We were play testing, but my only avenue to respite was these Joth games, and because when I'm creating and I've got a goal, and we're not just talking about this, we're doing this, and it's taking time and money, and we're going to eventually release it. And then when it's done, it's done. I can give it to I can set it upon the world and let other people decide whether it's a value or not. I don't take it personally if people like it or don't like it, but it's done. And I can say to Dell, good work, my friend. We have achieved our goal, and it is what it is. And that I'm now that workload is done. That relief, so to speak, is done, because we had other people also involved in that project. I mean, Brian waiting for us to get our shit together, and then putting a deadline on Brian. It was kind of hardcore, I'm sure, for Brian. And so it was stressful in a way. And I look forward to getting more stress as we start to work on our science fiction game. So I look forward to that challenge and that stress. But boy, but being a player in these old school dungeon crawls, these old school games, they're a respite from the world. They're a respite from all the things that we have to do every day. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And who knew, right? Who knew? All right, everybody have a great, great week.